Out of the night comes the whispering voice of the night wind to tell another story of man's battle with fate. This time, the true story of how a man accused of murder was proved innocent 20 years after he had paid the penalty of death for a crime he had not committed. Unbelievable, but true.
What have you done to my brother? They're saying in the village that you killed him.
This is the voice of the night wind, and this is the tale I tell. In the village of Vilby, Jutland, there lived a Lutheran pastor, Soren Quist, and his daughter Nora. Nora was the beauty of the village, and never lacked for suitors, but Pastor Quist was ambitious for her. And one by one he sent her village wooers packing, with stern words and often a well-directed boot. So it was that when young Morton Bruns, a local farm laborer, plucked up courage to ask Nora's hand, he precipitated yet another storm.
You marry my Nora? The idea, the very idea. Be off with you at once before I lose my temper.
But Pastor Quist...
Silence! Another word, do you hear? What have you to offer a girl of Nora's gentle upbringing? What are your prospects? Do you own a farm or a home? Or a prosperous business? Have you any assets at all?
I've my 2 strong hands.
Precious good they are to any man lacking a brain to go with them. Out of my house this instant, you good-for-nothing young rascal. And don't ever dare step foot into it again, or it'll be the worse for you. And if ever I see you hanging round my Nora again, it's not words you'll get, but the point of my boot and the weight of my stick over your thick, dumb skull.
You can't frighten me with your threats, you old fool. This is a free country, and I'll do as I like.
You insolent dog. You impudent young scoundrel! Get out, I say! Get out! Get out! Get out!
But Morton Bruns was not one to take his humiliation meekly. For days he brooded over it. And then slowly a plan of revenge began to take shape in his mind. At last it crystallized, and he called in the aid of his drunken, good-for-nothing elder brother, Niels.
You've got to help me get back on the old devil, Niels. You've got to.
Oh, what do you want me to do? Stop him in the street and thrash him?
And be sent to jail for your pains? No. No, I've a more subtle plan than that. I want you to go to him and say you've reformed. That you've given up drinking and your evil ways and decided to work.
Huh?
And then you're to ask him for a job as a handyman.
Just a minute. It's Pastor Quist who's to be punished, remember? Not me.
No, wait, I haven't finished yet. You don't have to actually turn over a new leaf. All you've got to do is to say that you want to.
Oh, suppose he gives me a job. What then?
Well, you accept it. And then just carry on as usual. Loaf and get drunk and so on.
Oh, the pastor won't like that very much.
Well, that's exactly what I'm counting on. You put up with you for a few days, and then there'll be a big row. You're to do everything you possibly can to provoke it. And the bigger it is, and the more people who hear it, the better.
He might beat me with his stick.
So much the better. If he does, you're not to try to strike him back, see? You're enough of a man to take a bit of a beating, aren't you?
Oh, so long as I know what it's all about. But where's all this leading? How's it going to help you revenge yourself on the pastor?
I'm coming to that now. Immediately after the row, you disappear. Quietly and without anyone knowing it. And you're not to come back to Vilby. Never, do you understand? You're to give yourself a new name, and as far as the people of this district are concerned, you're to vanish from the face of the earth.
Not so fast, brother. I like it here. I've lots of good friends.
You'll be well compensated. I'll send you a regular remittance of 100 kroner a year.
Where are you going to dig up 100 kroner a year?
Well, never mind, I'll get it somewhere. The main thing is you're to get out of Vealby and stay out.
I still don't understand how all this is going to help you.
Oh, liquor has dulled your brain, Niels. Surely it's simple enough. When you've disappeared, I shall go to Pastor Quist and demand to know where you are. And I shall go to the police and say I fear that some harm has come to you. Next, I shall bribe old Hans Larsen, who's so nearly an idiot that it doesn't matter, to say he saw Pastor Quist digging in his garden late on the night of the row with you. Well, the police will put two and two together, do some digging on their own account, and they'll find your battered corpse.
My corpse? No, just a
It
minute,
won't be
brother.
really yours, of course. I'll steal one from the graveyard and smash in the head so it won't be recognizable, and bury it there to be found. Now do you see?
So Pastor Quist will be charged with my murder, eh?
Exactly.
But they'll hang him.
That's what I'm hoping. I told you I was determined to be revenged on him.
Oh, you're a clever devil, aren't you,
A
Morton?
lot more clever than Pastor Quist believes.
And what makes you think I'll fall in with your plan? Brotherly love, by any chance?
No, Niels, a little matter of 100 kroner a year. It's a nice sum to get without having to work for it. Think of all the schnapps it'll buy you. Well, what do you say?
Make it 150 and I'm your man.
All right, it's a bargain.
Morton Brun's diabolical plan went through without a hitch. Niels confessed his reformation, was taken on by the pastor as a farm laborer, and so provoked his employer that within a week there were angry scenes culminating in a fierce brawl and dismissal. The same evening, Niels disappeared. For a fortnight, nothing untoward happened. And then one day, Morton Bruns called at Pastor Quist's house.
I thought I told you to keep away from my hair.
Oh, calm yourself, Pastor. It's not Nora I've come to see you about today. My brother Niels.
That good-for-nothing drunken rascal.
What have you done with him? Where is he?
How should I know where he is? I gave him a thrashing a fortnight ago and sent him on his way.
They're saying in the village that you killed him.
Killed him? Have you taken leave of your senses?
You'll not bluff your way out of it so easily as that, Pastor Quist. Niels disappeared the same day you thrashed him. And he hasn't been seen since.
Then he must have taken himself off somewhere else.
Wouldn't he have told me, his own brother?
Are you daring to suggest? Look here, Morton Brooms. I don't know what's happened to Niels, and I don't care. He can go to the devil as far as I'm concerned, and you with him. Now get out of here before I break my stick over your shoulders again.
All right, I'll go. But you'll hear more of this from the police.
Morton Bruns reported his brother's disappearance to the police. A reward was offered, but no one came forward to claim it. Then came the bribed half-wit, Hans Larsen, with his damning story and a visit by the local police inspector to Pastor Quist.
This fellow Larsen says he saw you, late on the night Niels Bruns disappeared, digging in your garden.
It's a lie.
He says you were wearing a green dressing gown. Do you possess such a thing?
Yes. Yes, I do, but...
He says you were digging underneath a crabapple tree. As I came in, I noted that the soil had recently been disturbed there.
I know nothing of it. I give you my word.
Then, if you're innocent, you'll have no objection to us digging in the same place.
Of course not. I'm with me and I'll lend you spades.
The police had not dug long before they found the body Morton Bruns had planted there. It was clad in Niels' clothes, and though the face had been battered beyond recognition, there seemed no doubt it was Niels' body.
What have you to say for yourself now, Pastor Quist?
I know nothing about it, I tell you.
Who killed Niels Bruns? How did his body come to be buried in your garden?
I don't know. I'm as mystified as you are.
I'm not mystified, Pastor Quist. Not in the least.
You mean you think I
mean you're under arrest for murder.
Despite his protestations, Pastor Quist was tried, found guilty, and in due course, hanged. For 20 years, Morton Bruns lived on in the village of Vealby. And if 150 kroner of his earnings every year were sent off to an unknown recipient, whose business was it but his own? Then Bruns died, and a few weeks later, an elderly tramp arrived at the village asking for him.
Morton Bruns? He died more than a month ago.
Oh, I see. That explains it. Well, thank you very much. Good day.
Just a minute. Come back here.
What do you want?
Haven't I seen you somewhere before?
No, I'm a stranger here.
I think not. You're... By heaven, I've got it. You're Niels Bruns.
No, you're mistaken.
Don't attempt to deny it. Come with me, Mr. Bruns. You and I have a lot of talking to do.
Under cross-examination, the whole story came out. And the villagers of Vealby learned that they had executed their pastor for a crime of which he was innocent. They made what little amends they could, and today, over the victim's grave, can be read the headstone,
Under this stone reposes Soren Quist, who suffered unjustly for a crime he never committed, victim of a foul plot, unhappy sport of blind justice.
Yes, my friends, that is the story of Pastor Quist. Unbelievable, but true. Out of the night! Out of the night comes the whispering voice of the night wind to tell another story of man's battle with life. A true story tonight of a happening 70-odd years ago, for which science has never yet found a satisfactory explanation. Unbelievable, but true.
Something's happening. Something strange. It's Lorenzi. Lorenzi's coming back.
It is the morning of February the 2nd, 1878, in the modest home of the Venom family in the small town of Watseka, Illinois. Mrs. Venom is already astir, and as the clock strikes 7, Mrs. Venom goes to waken her 14-year-old daughter.
Lorenzi, dear, it's 7 o'clock. Time to get up. Lorenzi, don't you hear Mother calling? Oh, for goodness sake, sound asleep still. Lorenzi, come on, wake up. What on earth's come over the girl? Lorenzi! Oh, Lorenzi. Pa! Pa! Come quick!
Hey, what's the matter, Ma? What's going wrong?
Oh, it's Lorenzi. She's dead.
Hey, let me see.
Nonsense, Margaret. She's as alive as you or me. Why, look at her breathing. As deep and steady as anything.
Well, something's wrong with her. She won't wake up. I've shaken her and I've shouted in her ear. She just lies there.
You let me have a go. Lorenzi. Lorenzi. Come on, wake up, you lazy girl.
You see? Not a move.
Hand me that pitcher of water. Thanks. Well, this ought to do the trick. Well, I'll be darned. Ma, she didn't budge. Looks like something might be wrong with her. Now, Ma, stop that weeping. There mightn't be nothing to worry about at all. I'll go hitch up Bessie and drive right over and fetch Dr. Stevens.
Strange. Very strange indeed. I pinched her, pricked her arm with a pin, and tickled her feet, and still she doesn't stir.
What do you think can be wrong with her, Doctor?
Frankly, Mrs. Venom, I haven't the faintest idea. This is quite outside my experience.
It sure is odd. She don't seem to be distressed at all, does she, Doc?
Not in the slightest. If it weren't so fantastic, I'd be almost inclined to say she was in a deep trance.
But how could that be?
I don't know.
What are we going to do, Doc?
I don't know that either. All I can suggest is to wait in the hope that she'll come out of it of her own accord.
Look, she's stirring now.
I didn't mean to...
She's opening her eyes. Lorenzi. Lorenzi, speak to me, darling. Tell me you're all right.
Where am I?
You're at home, dear. Safe and sound in your own little bed.
Who are you?
Who are we?
Why, we're your Ma and Pa, dear. Look at us. Don't you recognize?
Oh, yes, of course I do. Wait, you're Mr. and Mrs. Benham, aren't you?
Mr. and Mrs. Oh, Lorenzi. What's come over you? We're your own parents.
No, you're not. You're neighbors. And why do you keep calling me Lorenzi? That's your own little baby's name, isn't it?
Oh, Pa. Dr. Stevens. Something dreadful's happened.
Now. Take it easy, Mark. Take it easy.
Let me handle this. Tell me, child, isn't Lorenzi Venom your name?
Why, of course not.
Then what is it?
Mary Robb. Why, I thought everyone knew that.
Lorenzi.
Please, Mrs. Venom. Do you know this Mary Robb?
Sure, Doc. The Rops live a mile or so down the road. Mary was their daughter. Nice kid. About 18. 12 years ago, she died.
Would your daughter be likely to remember her?
I don't see how she could, Doc. She was only a toddler, about 2 years old at the time.
What am I doing in this night dress? Oh, please give me my clothes. I want to go home.
Where's home?
Just down the road a little way.
What are we going to do, Doc?
There's only one thing to do. We've got to humor her. Give her some clothes, Mrs. Venom. And while she's dressing, I'll go on ahead and have a talk to the Rops. Well, there it is, Mrs. Ropp. For some inexplicable reason, the girl thinks she's your dead daughter.
Oh, poor child.
The point is that for the time being, I think she should be allowed to go on thinking it.
Well, you mean we should take her in? Pretend she is our daughter?
Yes. Would you do that? It's asking a lot, I know, but...
Oh, of course we will, Doctor. You tell the Venoms to send her right over. And tell them we'll look after her just as if she was our own. There you are, dear. Now, you sit right down, and I'll get you a nice cup of coffee.
I'll get it, Mother. I'm not tired.
Oh, but you don't know where anything is.
But of course I do. The coffee's in the blue canister on the second shelf of the pantry. The milk's in the water cooler, and the sugar's in the top shelf of the dresser. You and Daddy and Dr. Stevens stay right where you are, and I'll have it ready in just 1 minute.
Wow. That's very odd. How would she know where I kept everything?
Hasn't she been in your kitchen before?
No, Doctor. Never as far as I'm aware.
Strange. Most remarkable.
Oh, you've got new curtains up to the kitchen windows, Mother. I like them much better than the blue and white check.
What? Oh, yes. Yes, they are nice, aren't they, dear? Oh, this is unbelievable. Those blue check curtains were changed 10 years ago.
But that's only a start. Lorenzi settles down into the Roff household quite as though it were her own. Looks upon the Roffs quite naturally and without embarrassment as her parents. Describes intimate details of the home that she could never have possibly known as Lorenzi Venom. Recognizes old friends of Mary Roff's and remembers incidents that only Mary herself could possibly recall.
I don't get it. There must be some explanation, Doc, but what is it?
I don't know, Mr. Venom. I've been thinking about it for weeks, but I just don't know.
Seems to me the explanation is simple enough.
Indeed, Mr. Ralph?
Surely there's no question about it. The soul, the spirit, or personality, or whatever you like to call it, of our dead daughter has come back to life in the body of little Lorenzi.
That explanation may satisfy some people, Mr. Ralph, but I'm a man of science. It doesn't satisfy me.
Have you any other to offer in its place?
No. No, I haven't.
Three months pass. Then one evening in the parlor of the Roff home...
Look, Mother, look what I found.
What is it, dear?
This old velvet dress. It was tucked away in a box in the attic. Do you remember it?
Do you?
Oh, yes, of course. It was the dress I wore on my 12th birthday. And I remember something else about it, too. I remember I tripped and fell into a puddle and got mud all over it. And you scolded me and sent me to bed without my tea. Do you remember that, Mother?
Yes, dear. Yes, I remember it well.
And do you remember the night of my first dance?
What is it, dear?
Something's happening. Something strange. Lorenzi's coming back.
Darling, you all right?
Yes, I'm all right. Just that I'm tired. I'm terribly tired. I think I'll go to my room and lie down.
For almost 24 hours, Lorenzi Venom lies in a heavy sleep. The Roffs advise her parents and Dr. Stevens, and all five wait anxiously for some sign of returning consciousness.
She's waking up now.
Hello. Oh, it's you, Mrs. Ross.
Hello, Lorenzi.
I am in your home, aren't I? How did I get here? Why, Pa. What are you doing here? What's all this about?
Lorenzi. Oh, poor little girl.
Pa, what's the matter? Why does everyone look so strange?
You've been sick, Lorenzi. Very sick indeed.
But I don't feel sick. I feel all right. What's been the matter with me?
Nothing, my dear. Nothing at all. Now, just you put on your clothes, and then you go home with your mother and father.
And this is only the start of the strange dual personality. For throughout the rest of her life, at occasional intervals, Lorenzi Venom becomes Mary Roth, with memories of people and events that Lorenzi herself could have no means of knowing. Many scientists have studied her strange case. Not one has yet advanced a logical explanation.
Out of the night!
Out of the night comes the whispering voice of the night wind to tell another story of man's battle with fate. A true story tonight of a ghastly crime and its amazing sequel. Unbelievable, but true.
It's my fault, leaving them there. If ever I lay hands on him,
Bruce Rock is a small, prosperous town in the West Australian wheat belt. There in 1930 lived Mr. and Mrs. Jack Smith, a young couple with a year-old baby. They ran a small farm with one hired hand, a big, rather silent fellow in his early 20s, named Bill Halbert. Halbert was a stranger to the district and didn't get around much. People used to wonder a lot about him, and whenever Jack Smith went to town, friends used to ask questions about his employees. He was down at the local pub one day, having come into town to pick up the mail, when he ran into one of his friends.
What's it to be?
Oh, I'll have a pot, thanks.
Righto.
Charlie.
2 pots, Flora. How's that young hand of yours getting on, Jack? Albert, or whatever his name is.
Oh, all right.
Still as good a worker as when he started with you?
Oh, well, yeah, I suppose he is. Funny thing is, he's getting a bit hard to handle. You can't say 2 words to him, but what he does is bluff.
I thought you said he was a quiet sort of bloke.
Oh, well, so he was at first, but just lately he's been getting a bit too big for his boots. He gives the liquor a bit of a lash on the quiet now and then, you know. Next day you've got to humour him like a kid or he flies into the most fearful rages.
Yeah. How's the wife like that?
Well, she's been getting the breeze up a bit lately. Can't say I blame her. I get a bit nervous myself sometimes. He's such a hulking big bloke. I wouldn't be in the race if he took a crack at me.
Struth, that's no good. Why don't you get rid of him?
Oh, it's not as bad as all that. He calms down pretty quick, and then he's as right as a bank. Besides, with labour scarce like it is and the harvest coming on, this is no time to be sacking anyone.
Well, I wouldn't have a bloke like that hanging around my place for 5 minutes. Still, I suppose you know your own business best. Another drink.
Oh, no, Charlie, this one's on me. Fill him up again, Flora, will you?
But when Jack Smith paid his next visit to town a fortnight or so later, it seemed that things had gone from bad to worse.
Well, Jack Smith! Why, mate, you're looking pleased with yourself.
Yeah, I done it. I took your advice.
You done what?
Sacked Bill Halbert.
Oh, been playing up again, eh?
Yeah, we had a row this morning and he called me for everything. Took a swing at me, too. But I got out of the way, all right. So I gave him his notice.
Ah, how'd he take it?
Not so good. Flew off into the worst rage I've ever seen. Fair dinkum, Charlie. He was like a maniac for a while.
Did he go for you?
Oh, well, no, not exactly. But he was swearing blue murder and kept saying he'd get square with me. I don't mind telling you, I'll be glad to see the last of him.
Oh, hasn't he gone yet?
No, his notice doesn't cut out till Saturday.
What? Couldn't you have paid him his money?
Well, I offered to, but he wouldn't take it.
So he's still there, eh? What have you done with your wife and kid?
Oh, they're still at home, sir.
You mean to say you've left them with a crazy galoot like that?
Oh, he won't try any funny business.
I wouldn't be so sure. I've seen them go like that before. It's the loneliness, you know. Drives some of them clean off their rocker. And then just about anything's likely to happen.
Well, maybe I was silly to leave him, but I never thought of anything like that. I say, Charlie, do you think you could spare an hour or so and drive out with me and just make sure everything's okay?
Too right I can. Come on, let's go.
During the drive out, neither man was talkative. And as they approached Smith's farm, each seemed to be filled with a sense of grim foreboding. They reached the homestead at last.
Say, that's odd.
What is?
Why, the wife always comes out on the veranda when she hears the car coming. Never misses. There's something wrong, Charlie. I can feel it. I'm almost scared to go inside.
Now, you stick around here. I'll go in and take a look around.
Well, would you mind, Charlie?
Of course not. Won't be long. Mrs. Smith? Are you there, Mrs. Smith? Charlie Stanner. Mrs. Smith? Are you... Oh, no. Oh, no.
Charlie! Hey! What is it, Charlie? What's the matter?
Listen, I don't think you'd better go inside, Jack.
What's happened? It's something terrible. I can see by the look in your face. You've got to tell me. I must know. Is it the wife?
Yeah.
Not dead?
Yeah.
How? How? Answer me!
She was murdered. With an axe, I think.
The kid! What about the kid? Where is she?
The kid, too.
Oh.
Listen, take it easy, Jack. Take it easy, will you, mate?
It was Albert. I should have known. It's my fault leaving him there. If ever I lay my hands on him,
Wait a minute, mate. There's nothing you can do to Bill Halbert.
You mean?
He's inside, too.
Dead?
Yeah. Strung himself up from a rafter. Jack. Hey, Jack, where you going?
Inside! I gotta go inside!
Don't be a fool, will you?
Let go of me!
Listen, you're not going in there, I tell you. You're coming straight back to town with me. Now, be quiet. We got to report to the police. It's the best way, Jack. It's not very pretty in there. The sight of it'd stick in your mind for a long time, mate.
Yeah. I suppose you're right.
Oh, come on.
All right. Let's get started.
In due course, the report of the ghastly tragedy reached police headquarters in Perth. The commissioner sent for one of his most experienced men, Detective Charles Muller.
Come in, Muller. There you are.
Yes, sir. What is it, sir?
I want you to take a trip up to a little place called Bruce Rock, Muller.
Righto, sir. What's doing?
Oh, just a straightforward case. Murder and suicide on a farm. You know the kind of thing. Hired hand goes berserk, kills farmer's wife and kid with an axe, then hangs himself.
What was the motive?
Well, it seems that the hired hand had been sacked that morning and threatened to get even.
He certainly chose a drastic way of doing it. Has there been an inquest yet?
No, it's scheduled for next Monday. All I want you to do is put in an appearance and formally tie up any legal loose ends that the local police might have overlooked.
Okay, sir. I'll catch this evening's train.
But the tragedy hadn't yet run its full course. When Detective Muller reached Bruce Rock, it was to learn that Halbert had had his full measure of revenge.
Just a couple of hours ago it happened, sir. Nasty kind of thing altogether. You say Smith had been in a bad way ever since the tragedy out of the farm?
Yes, sir. Kind of demented, as you might say. Couldn't sleep at night or settle down to work. Had to get neighbors in to do the harvesting for him. Used to break down every now and then and cry for hours.
Mm-hmm. Acute melancholia, huh?
Well, you see, sir, he kind of blamed himself for the whole business. Reckoned if he hadn't been silly enough to leave his wife and kids alone with Halbert, it would never have happened. Poor devil. I can imagine how he must have felt.
As a matter of fact, that's the one thing that puzzles me, too.
What is, sir?
Why he left them alone with Halbert. Anyhow, then let's talk about that now. Tell me what happened today.
Well, sir, Smith had been moping around the town all morning. He came to the station about lunchtime, looking pretty miserable.
G'day.
Hello, Jack. How's things?
Oh, not so good. What's doing? Any news?
A detective's on his way up here from Perth. A bloke named Muller. Pretty good man, they say.
What's he coming for?
Oh, he's just to fix up about the inquest.
Why can't they let everything be? It's over and done with now, isn't it? Why do they have to drag it all up again?
Well, it's the law, Jack. There's always got to be an inquest.
That means I'll have to give evidence, I suppose.
Of course.
Answer more questions. Go through the whole business again. It's not fair. I shouldn't have to do it. Haven't I had to endure enough as it is?
Now, Jack, there's no need to upset yourself.
Questions. I can't stand any more of it, I tell you. It's driving me mad.
Well, we're only doing our duty.
Well, I won't, you hear? I won't see this fella. He can talk till he's black in the face and I won't ask for a single thing.
Well, there's no need to be like that. We all know how you feel, and we're sorry for you.
I won't stand any more of it, I tell you. I won't stand it. You can go to the devil, the whole lot of you.
What's the crazy devil up to? Where in the place is he going? He's driving. He'll hit something.
Hey, Smithy! Come back, you fool! Come back! No!
You see, sir, he dashed out and into his car, drove like a madman down the main street, crashed through the lock gate of a paddock, and the next thing we knew, there was an explosion. He'd blown himself to pieces with a plug of dynamite. Poor fella.
The whole case might have ended then and there, and certainly would have, had it not been for Detective Muller. A fortnight later, he was back in Perth, reporting to his chief.
Well, you certainly took a long time to round off a clear-cut case, Muller.
No, it's not quite as clear-cut as all that, sir. There are just one or two points I think you should know.
Oh? What are they?
Well, first I checked in Halbert's hometown. Everyone agreed he was a shy, sober young man, completely placid-tempered.
That doesn't prove anything.
Oh. Secondly, I've learned that 3 months ago, Smith came to Perth on a visit and insured his wife for £2,000, with himself as beneficiary.
Go on.
And finally, sir, according to the pathologist's report, Albert was killed by strangulation at least 6 hours before Smith's wife and child were murdered.
Good heavens. You mean to say...
I mean to say, sir, that Smith deliberately spread a false report of Halbert's vicious temper and then killed all 3 of them.
Out of the night comes the whispering voice of the night wind to tell another story of man's battle with fate. The true story tonight of a brazen murder plot that went astray.
Why should I kill my wife? We were happy together. She was generous with her money. I never wanted for a thing. Why should I kill her?
happened one blustery evening in late February 1919 in the quiet little village of Long Beach on the south shore of Long Island, New York. The 9:30 p.m. train from New York has just pulled in. Only 2 passengers have alighted. Elderly Dr. Walter Wilkins, a retired physician, and his wife, Julia. They set off for their home in Olive Street, and on the way passed Police Sergeant Schneider.
Good night, Sergeant.
Good night, Doc. Night, Mrs. Wilkins.
Good night.
Keeping you busy, Sergeant?
Busy. Nothing's ever happened in Long Beach in 50 years.
Well, you should be the last to complain about that.
Oh, I'm not complaining, ma'am, but a guy does like a bit of excitement now and again.
Such as what?
Oh, a nice juicy murder, for instance. Well, good night, Doc. Good night, ma'am.
Little does Officer Schneider realize how soon his wish is to be granted. Exactly 23 minutes later, he hears the sound of running footsteps approaching.
Sergeant! Sergeant! Oh, come quickly. Sergeant!
For Pete's sake, Doc, what's the matter? Why, you're all mussed up.
Never mind about me. It's my wife.
Where is she?
Just outside the house. There were 3 of them. They attacked me first, and then one of them hit my wife. I think she's dying.
Come on, let's run for it. How did it happen, Doc?
Oh, it was just as we got home. We went in the back way, and I opened the door and went in first. I knew at once there were thieves in the house, for I could see a shadowy figure. I called out to my wife, Julia, there's someone inside. You better go for help.
And then?
Then something hit me on the head, and I fell to the floor. I heard my wife scream, and then I heard someone say, you'd better fix her up. And then the back door slammed, and I heard my wife scream again, and then there was silence.
What happened next?
I don't know. I was dazed. Finally, I managed to make my way out to the backyard. Robbers had gone, and my wife was lying there unconscious and moaning. In a pretty bad way, I guess. I do hope we get there before she dies.
You seem pretty sure she will die.
Oh, I'm a doctor, aren't I?
Dr. Wilkins' analysis is accurate enough, for his wife dies in hospital at 11:45 that night. It's not to be wondered at, for she has been struck on the head 17 times. The case is quickly reported to the New York police authorities, and District Attorney Frederick Weeks comes down personally to take the investigation in hand.
Empty brandy bottle, 3 glasses, 2 soiled teacups, 3 chairs drawn up the table, cigarette butts, matches, and a cigar stub on the floor. Well, looks like your burglars had quite a party before you got home, Dr. Wilkins.
It certainly looks that way, Mr. District Attorney.
Have you checked up to see if anything was stolen?
Well, as far as I can see, nothing from the house, but when they knocked me down, they must have taken my watch and a stick pin set with diamonds and my wallet.
How much was in the wallet?
Well, I couldn't be sure. About $50, I think.
Can you describe your assailants?
Only very vaguely. I didn't get much of a look at them. One was a tall man, and the other was a little fat man.
And the third?
I don't believe I saw him at all.
Well, then why are you so certain you saw 3 men?
Well, the 3 chairs and the 3 glasses, for instance.
But you didn't see those until you returned with Officer Snyder.
Well, I don't know. I guess I just knew instinctively that there were 3.
I've got the weapons, Chief.
Good. Let's see them.
Here's the first one. It's a bit of half-inch lead pipe wrapped in sacking. Looks like that's what you were socked with, Doc.
Good heavens. No wonder I'm alive.
This is what they did Mrs. Wilkins in with.
A machinist's hammer, huh?
Yeah. Wrapped up in newspaper and tied with cord.
Any more clues?
None that I can see, sir.
Well, it gives us something to work on anyhow. By the way, Dr. Wilkins, I understand your wife was wealthy.
Well, yes, quite well off. Her father made a fortune, left most of it to her.
Does she have much property?
Yes, quite a bit. This house is hers, of course, and she owned, or rather, I should say owned, several apartments in New York City.
New York City, yeah. I I presume she's left a will.
Well, I suppose she has. I'm her second husband, you know. Her first husband was a man named Otto Kraus. He was agent for a whiskey company. In 1903, when she married to Kraus, she made a will leaving most of her property to charity.
And since then?
Well, I don't rightly know. When we were married in 1906, she said she was going to make a new will in my favor, but well, I've never seen it, and I don't know if she ever did.
Despite the arduous efforts of District Attorney Weeks and a whole crew of detectives, the investigation makes little headway. After several fruitless weeks, residents of Long Beach hold an indignation meeting, and newspaper reporters begin to pester the district attorney and his assistants for statements. One of them even approaches Dr. Wilkins and suggests that maybe it was he who killed his wife. Wilkins' reply is to the point.
I ought to feel indignant. But any such suggestion is so nonsensical, it makes me laugh. My wife's death was the worst possible thing that could have happened to me. She was a good wife, a good nurse, a pleasant companion, and the person from whom I got my money. Unless the missing will is found, and there is no guarantee that it even exists, I'm left practically penniless. At the age of 67, I'll have to go back into active practice.
2 days later, in his New York office, District Attorney Weeks hears news of the missing will.
Come in.
Sir, I've just had a telephone call from Lawyer Price.
Price? Who's he?
The late Julia Wilkins' attorney.
Oh. Yeah, what's he want?
Well, he says Doc Wilkins came in this morning and handed in a second will signed by his wife. Reckons he found it in the attic. It's dated 1915, and it hasn't been witnessed.
I see. I gather left everything to Wilkins.
Yes, sir. All except a few small items of jewelry.
This is what we've been waiting for. Now, at last, we've got a motive. Have a warrant issued and send someone down to Long Beach and put Dr. Wilkins under arrest.
What charge, sir?
Eh? What charge do you think? Murder, of course.
But how do you figure that out?
Simple as ABC. Wait a minute. I'll read you my notes on this. Point 1. The newspaper in which the hammer was wrapped was one Wilkins subscribed to. He was seen reading a copy of it on the train. Point 2, the string around the hammer has been traced to a butcher's shop where Wilkins traded. Wait a minute. Point 3. A handyman who did some work in Wilkins' home says that he saw the hammer in Wilkins' tool chest. Claims he remembers it by a streak of green paint on the handle. And point 4, the stick pin and the watch Wilkins claims were stolen from him, they were found stuffed in the back of a couch in his house. And point 5, the glasses that the attackers were supposed to have used have no fingerprints on them. None. But Wilkins. And if this isn't enough to arrest a man, then I don't know how to handle a murder case.
So the warrant is issued. But Wilkins must have had a premonition of disaster, for he is gone when the police reach his home. 2 days later, he is picked up in Baltimore. At the trial, Wilkins defends himself with vigor.
Order! Order! Order, please. The prisoner will proceed.
The evidence against me is all circumstantial. I submit that it is not the sort of evidence on which any jury would dare to convict. Why should I kill my wife? We were happy together. She was generous with her money. I never wanted for a thing. Why should I kill her? For weeks before my arrest, the authorities were badgered by the press and the public to produce results. I suggest, in fact, I assert quite positively, gentlemen, that to still this clamor, they were determined to produce a murderer, and therefore they deliberately framed me.
Order! Order! Order in the court!
takes the jury exactly 22 hours and 23 minutes to make up its mind. Then the members file back into court. And the foreman says,
We find the accused, Walter Wilkins, guilty of murder in the first degree.
I persist!
Order! Order! Walter Wilkins, it is now my duty to pass upon you sentence of death.
You can't send me to the jail. I won't let you. I won't let you, I tell you. I won't let you. I won't let you.
and little Dr. Wilkins is as good as his word. On the day after his conviction,
Come on, Wilkins. The warden wants to have a yarn to you. There's some... Wilkins. Now, come on, come on. Say, what goes on here? Hey, someone get the doctor. There's a guy in here strung himself up.
but in the long run, it didn't matter much. It just saved an executioner's fee. Out of the night. Out of the night comes the whispering voice of the night wind to tell another story of man's battle with fate. The true story today of a clever and impudent fraud that almost succeeded, but not quite.
My husband is dead. You hold the proofs. That's all there is to it. I insist upon immediate settlement of my claim.
Generally speaking, large-scale insurance frauds are a product of the present century. But this is the story of one that happened more than 80 years ago, and which remains today one of the most daring of them all. It began one day in 1875, when an attractive woman dressed in black presented herself to the manager of a leading Paris insurance company.
Madame Dua, I believe.
Yes.
Won't you be seated, please?
Oh, thank you.
Now, what can I have the privilege of doing for you?
My husband, Vital Dua, recently took out a life insurance policy with your company for 100,000 francs. I have it here.
Oh, yes, I remember the gentleman well. A big man, very genial. A wine merchant of Bordeaux, if my memory is not at fault.
That is so. I have come all the way from there to see you.
Indeed? Why?
To report his death.
But surely Madame cannot be serious.
Why not?
Well, Monsieur Dua seemed such a robust, healthy man. Our doctor who examined him passed him as a first-class risk.
Ways of Providence are inscrutable, Monsieur.
True. When and where did this unfortunate event occur?
A fortnight ago. My husband went to London on business. Little did I know as I said goodbye that it would be the last time I would see him.
Oh, now, Madame must be brave.
Oh, forgive me. Yes, I keep telling myself that. He took lodgings in Anne Street, Plaistow. There on November 29th, he died suddenly, apparently with no warning whatever of aneurysm of the heart. Oh, here is a certificate from the physician who attended him. It is signed, as you see, in the name of Dr. Critty.
Yes. Very unfortunate. Very unfortunate indeed.
And here is another certificate from the Registrar of Deaths in London. And here is a receipt for the purchase of a plot. and for burial fees at St. Patrick's Cemetery.
Thank you. Your thoroughness will no doubt save us a great deal of time. May I take charge of these papers?
Oh, yes, of course. Will I have to wait long for my money?
Oh, no more than a few days. There are just one or two little matters, formalities, you understand. I'd suggest you return a week from today. And allow me to say, madame, how deeply grieved I am to learn of your sad loss.
But when Madame Dua returned a week later, it wasn't quite as easy as she had thought.
Madame Dua, since our last interview, I have taken the liberty of making certain inquiries regarding your husband.
Indeed? Why?
A reasonable precaution, surely, since his death may possibly involve my company in the paying out of 100,000 francs.
May involve? But surely it's all quite simple. My husband is dead. You have the papers. What other question arises?
Madam, 2 months ago, your husband filed a petition of bankruptcy.
That is so, but I don't see...
Among his creditors in Bordeaux, there is a general feeling that it was a bankruptcy of convenience rather than necessity.
Are you insinuating?
I insinuate nothing, madame. I merely state that these suspicions became so strong that the police were induced to issue a warrant for your husband's arrest. That is the real reason why he went to London.
Even if it was, I do not see that it has anything to do with you.
Perhaps not. Nevertheless...
My husband is dead. You hold the proofs. That's all there is to it. I insist upon immediate settlement of my claim.
It shall be settled when we have completed our inquiries, madam, not the day before.
I am entitled to the money, and if I don't get it, I warn you, I shall seek legal assistance.
That is your privilege, of course. Good day, madam.
But however suspicious the circumstances, the insurance company knew that unless they could rebut the evidence of Dua's death, they would sooner or later have to pay. So it was that a few days later, Scotland Yard found themselves in possession of all the facts, with an inquiry to look into them. The commissioner sent at once for one of his most trusted detectives, Nathaniel Druskovich.
Well, there you are, Druskovich. There's the daughter, and there are the papers. Very funny business. See what you can make of it.
If these certificates are authentic, Dua must be dead and buried.
The insurance company thinks that his death occurred just a trifle too conveniently. They believe that a man who's committed a bankruptcy fraud is also capable of committing an insurance fraud. Well, I'm leaving it to you to ascertain beyond all possible doubt whether this man Dua is dead or not.
Druskovich's inquiries took him first to the house in Ann Street, Plaistow, where Dua was supposed to have died. There he had an interview with the landlord.
Oh, yes, sir. There was a foreign gentleman took the place a few weeks ago. Called himself Bernardi.
Was he a big, jovial, prosperous-looking man, aged about 45?
Why, yes, sir. That description fits him perfectly, sir.
Did he have any references?
No, sir. He gave me no references. He did better than that. He paid me a month's rent down, and that was good enough for me. Said he wanted a place where he could look after a sick friend.
Did you see anything of this friend?
No. You see, Mr. Bernardi had only been here a couple of days when his friend died. Something wrong with his heart, I believe. Most unfortunate. Very sudden indeed.
There was a funeral, I suppose?
Oh, yes, quite a grand one. He buried his friend in St. Patrick's Cemetery.
And then?
Well, that's all I can tell you, sir. You see, Mr. Bernardi packed his things the same night, and he went off, and I haven't seen him since.
The detective's next call was on the caretaker of St. Patrick's Cemetery.
Vito Dua? Oh, yes, sir. I remember the burial quite well. Such an unusual name, you see.
The arrangements were made by a foreigner, a Mr. Bernardi, I believe.
That's so. A very pleasant gentleman indeed. He presented the death certificate, paid the fees, and generally took charge of the whole affair.
Were there many mourners at the burial?
Only one, sir. Mr. Bernardi himself.
Do you happen to remember who the undertaker was?
Yes, sir. It was old Sam Brown of Plaistow. Been in the business nigh on 40 years, he has.
Good. I'll call on him at once.
Yes, I recall the gentleman quite well. He ordered a full-sized ready-made coffin. I remember particularly because he insisted that the handles should be altered from the sides to the ends of the coffin, as is the custom in France.
And can you give me a description of the person who was buried in this coffin?
To tell you the truth, I can't, sir.
But surely you must have seen the body.
No, I didn't. On Mr. Bernardi's instructions, I delivered the coffin to Ann Street. He said it wasn't necessary for me to do anything more, as he would put the body in the coffin and screw it up.
That's a very unusual procedure, isn't it?
Are you trying to tell me my business? Maybe it was unusual, but let me tell you, I know my legal rights, and I acted within them. There was no obligation whatever on me to put the body in the coffin. Mr. Bernardi presented a certificate of death properly signed by the registrar. And that was good enough for me.
Well, it's not good enough for me.
Well, what do you mean, sir?
I mean that I'm going to get an authority for an order for exhumation.
2 nights later, the newly turned earth was disturbed once more, and the coffin was brought to the surface.
All right.
Yeah, there.
Unscrew the lid.
Yes, sir. All the same, I don't think it's right that we should disturb the rest of the dead like this. It's desecration. That's what it is.
Stop grumbling and get on with your job.
No good will come of it. Mark my words. No good at all. Well, there you are, sir. And I hope you're satisfied. Well, bless me soul.
Desecrating the dead, eh?
Well, there's nothing there but a few odd bits of metal to make up the weight. What a surprise.
Not to me, it isn't.
There remained now only 2 or 3 formal calls, and Druskovich's case was completed.
Well, there's the whole story, sir. Using the name of Bernardi, Duar took lodgings at Plastow. He pretended he had a sick friend, whom nobody saw, of course, and a couple of days later gave out that his friend had died. He forged a medical certificate of death.
Have you established that?
Yes. I interviewed the only doctor in London by the name of Critty. He said that the writing was a clumsy forgery and that he had never attended an attendant at Plastow.
Well, that seems conclusive enough. Go on, Droskovich.
He presented the forged certificate to the Registrar of Deaths and received an official certificate of death. He showed that to the undertaker and to the cemetery authorities. When the coffin was delivered at the house, he filled it with scrap metal and screwed down the lid. He attended the funeral and the burial, paid the fees, and obtained receipts.
A very clever fraud. Very clever indeed. Now all we have to do is to find Monsieur Duar.
It's not going to be so easy. I've traced him to Liverpool, and I've reason to believe that he's on his way to America under the name of Rubini.
I see. That makes it rather difficult, doesn't it?
I would suggest that the Paris Sûreté pick up his wife. The best chance of finding Duar is through her.
I quite agree. But you see, my last advice from Paris is that Madame Duar has disappeared also.
Since the insurance company had not paid out its 100,000 francs, the French authorities did not think it worthwhile searching for and extraditing Duar from the United States. And there the matter may have rested for all time, if Duar had been wise enough to stay where he was. But 5 years later, he made the fatal error of returning to England. So it happened that one day Nathaniel Droskovich was called again before his chief.
You'd better look into this, Droskovich.
What's it all about, sir?
Suspected insurance fraud. Some fellow insured a quantity of goods that he was shipping by boat for £5,000. There was a fire in the hold, his goods were destroyed, and he's lodged a claim.
Well, what makes the company think there's been a fraud?
One of their officers found the remains of a barrel of tar among the fire debris.
Very clumsy, I must say. What's the name of the man in the case?
Yeah, he's a foreigner. Calls himself Roberti.
Roberti, eh? Bernardi, Rubini, Roberti. I wonder.
This time, Droskovich made no mistake. Duar was arrested and handed over to the French authorities. He was tried and some years later died in prison.
Out of the night comes the whispering voice of the night wind to tell another story of man's battle with fate. The amazing but true story tonight of an error in identity that sent an innocent man to jail for 7 years. Unbelievable, but true.
I don't know anything about it. I swear it. You got to believe me.
This is the voice of the night wind, and this is the tale I tell. It began one wintry December afternoon in 1895 in a fashionable London street. Adolf Beck, a well-to-do Norwegian, was taking a quiet stroll before dinner when he was suddenly accosted by an angry young woman.
So, I found you at last, you scoundrel.
I am sorry, madame. There must be some mistake.
There's no mistake. I'd know your face anywhere. Give me back my watch and rings, you thief.
Please, I assure you. My name is Adolf Beck. I am a Norwegian, a visitor to London.
Don't think you can get out of it like that.
I assure madame she is in error. Now, if you will please excuse
Oh,
me.
no, you don't. Police! Help! Police!
Please, madame, I implore you.
Hey, what's going on here? Is this man annoying you, lady?
He's a thief. I've been searching for him for days. He obtained valuables of mine by trickery.
Ah, one of them, eh?
This is preposterous, Constable. I've tried to explain to the young lady that she is mistaking me for someone else. My name is...
Never mind about that now. You better come along with me. You can tell your story to the sergeant.
Mystified and angry, Adolf Beck spent several hours in the cells before his insistent demand to talk to the sergeant in charge was granted.
Well, what do you want?
I demand to know why I'm being detained here.
Oh, you do you? Well, if it's any news to you, you're being detained on a charge of obtaining goods by false pretenses.
From that young woman?
You've hit it in one, matey.
But that's absurd. I've never seen her before in my life.
Ah, still sticking to that yarn, eh?
It's the truth. At least you might tell me what I'm supposed to have done.
You wouldn't have heard of the St. John's Wood joke by any chance, would you?
No, I haven't. I don't know what you're talking about.
The St. John's Wood joke, matey, is this. A prosperous-looking gent like yourself scrapes up an acquaintance with a woman and drops hints about his wealth and aristocracy and so on. Later on, he writes to her, asking if he can call. He uses expensive crested paper with a St. John's Wood address, and he signs it with a title.
This is fantastic.
Hold on, I've not finished yet. In due course, the gentleman calls. He's wanting a housekeeper, he says, and invites the lady to take the job. The pay is good, and she accepts. He insists on buying her a new wardrobe and gives her a whopping check. Then the talk gets round to jewelry. She shows him what she has. He says it needs resetting and improving. So he takes the whole lot of it away to have it fixed. And that's the last she sees of him or her stuff. And even the check comes back marked no account, but of course you wouldn't know about such things, would you?
No, I wouldn't. And let me tell you, Sergeant...
If you don't mind, I'll do all the telling around here. We've had a lot of complaints these last few months about swindlers like you. I've sent messages out to all the women who've been taken in. And in half an hour or so, matey, you're going to take your chance in the lineup. If you're as innocent as you say, you've nothing to fear. Otherwise, you can look forward to a nice, long stretch.
To Beck's horror, no less than 10 or 20 women who attended the lineup identified him as the man who had duped them. Then someone looked up the records and discovered that a man known as John Smith had gone to jail for 5 years way back in 1877 for similar offenses. The policeman who had arrested this Smith was brought out of retirement, confronted with Beck, and declared at once that he and Smith were the same man. Things looked black for Beck, and blacker still as the trial progressed. Only his counsel, Charles Gill, remained confident of an acquittal.
But if all these women all say positively that I am the man, how can I possibly hope for an acquittal?
Don't you worry, Mr. Beck. I have a trump up my sleeve yet.
You have? That's comforting to know. What is it?
As soon as the Crown try to prove that you and this John Smith are identical, I'm going to blow their whole case sky high.
Good.
First, I'm going to submit Smith's official description, and let the jury compare it with yours.
Perhaps they will be similar.
No, not at all. Smith was dark, you're fair. His eyes were brown, yours are blue. He was 5 feet 8 inches, you're 6 feet. He weighed 11 stone, you weigh 14.
But that doddering old constable they brought out of her time and positively identified me as Smith.
So much the better. If he can be mistaken, so can the women. Furthermore, I had a word today from the British Embassy in Peru, which proved definitely that you were in South America at the time Smith was sent to jail. I tell you, Mr. Beck, you've got not a thing to worry about. Once I prove you can't possibly be John Smith, the jury just can't do anything else but acquit you.
Counsel's reasoning was sound enough. The only catch was that the Crown prosecutor happened to see the same trap and carefully avoided walking into it.
And as to the suggestion, Your Honor, that my client has had a previous conviction for an offense of this nature, and that he is in fact identical with one John Smith, I object, Your Honor.
What are your grounds, Miss Ravery? I submit, Your Honor, that the prisoner is charged with misdemeanor on 10 specific counts during 1895. The question of whether he is or is not John Smith has nothing whatever to do with the present charges, nor can its introduction serve any possible purpose but to confuse and prejudice the proceedings before this court.
With all due respect to my learned colleague, Your Honor, I submit...
Objection sustained.
Did Your Honor say sustained?
I did, Mr. Gill. Pray proceed with your case, and omit all reference to the name of John Smith, and of any incident or person not directly concerned with the charges before the court.
With his main line of defense denied him, Beck never had a chance. He was found guilty, and still fervently protesting his innocence, sentenced to 7 years jail. Good conduct commissions earned his release after 5 years in 1901. But scarcely had he settled back to civilian life than the old nightmare began all over again.
Well, if it isn't my old friend Adolf Beck.
Oh, it's you, Sergeant. What do you want?
Oh, just called in for a quiet chat, as you might say.
Haven't you people finished with me yet? Don't you think you've hounded me enough as it is?
Now, no hard feelings. Got to do my job, you know. So, you've been up your old games again, eh? It's a pity you fellas never learn.
What do you mean? What are you trying to pin on me now?
You've been out of court about a month now, haven't you?
Yes, 4 weeks today.
Don't waste much time, do you? I don't know. I always thought you were an intelligent sort of cove. Didn't really expect you'd mend your ways, you know, but I did think you'd change your methods. I'm disappointed in you, matey. Really, I am.
Will you please tell me what all this is leading to?
Ever heard of a woman named Mary Watson?
Never.
Will it surprise you to know she complained to the police today that she'd been a victim of the St. John's Wood joke?
I tell you, I never heard of her.
And from the way she describes the man who took her in, it sounds exactly like you.
I don't know anything about it. I swear it. You've got to believe me.
Still playing the innocent, eh? Well, you better come along with me, Beck.
You mean I'm to be charged again?
Well, that all depends on whether she identifies you in the lineup.
So once again, the whole incredible business was repeated. To Adolf Beck, it must have seemed like some hideous nightmare. In the lineup, the woman had no hesitation in selecting him as her defrauder. He was charged, stood his trial, found guilty, and remanded for sentence. Then, as he waited miserably in his cell to learn his fate, the whole case suddenly and dramatically cracked open.
Congratulations, Mr. Beck. You're free.
I'm free?
Well, all except for a few legal details.
You mean they reviewed my case?
I mean they've caught the real criminal, John Smith.
It can't be true.
It is true. They arrested him in a pawn shop 4 hours ago, trying to dispose of some of Mary Watson's jewels. He's broken down under cross-questioning and has confessed everything.
Everything?
Yes, including the crimes that you were sent to jail for 5 years ago. You're not only free, Mr. Beck, but your name has been cleared. And if I can't get you whopping compensation for your wrongful imprisonment, my name's not Charlie Gill.
A special committee of inquiry was set up to investigate the whole matter, and Adolf Beck had the belated pleasure of seeing his name expunged from the criminal records and receiving a check for £5,000 for the wrong he had suffered. Today, his story is history. But neither criminologists nor psychologists have ever been able to explain how 11 women could have positively identified him as John Smith when the two men were so utterly dissimilar in every respect. And that is the story of When Justice Was Blind. Unbelievable, but true. Out of the night comes the whispering voice of the night wind to tell another story of man's battle with life. Tonight, the story of William James Cetus, the man who destroyed his own mind. Unbelievable, but true.
They hate me. Nobody likes me. They say I'm a freak. They hate me. They hate me. They hate me.
This is the voice of the night wind, and this is the tale I tell. It is the month of July in the year 1944, and in the copy room of a country newspaper in Brookline, Massachusetts, USA, is being written the final chapter to one of the most amazing stories ever told. The life history of one William James Cetus, who, like the Browns, the Smiths, and the Jones of this world, had his part to play in the queer jigsaw pattern of life.
Hey, Henry. What is it, Sam? This copy. Take a look at it, will you? Huh? What's the matter with it? Read it for yourself. Let's see. The death is reported of William James Cetus, age 46, from natural causes, at Evans Boarding House on Main Street. Cetus was stricken with a cold, which resulted in complications from which he never recovered. What in thunderation? You beat it? Who the devil wrote this? Young Taylor, that new cub reporter. What you trying to do? Ruin our circulation? We want news. Not some story about a poor tramp who passes out in a second-rate boarding house. Anyway, what'll I do with this copy? Toss it in the waste paper basket. That's the best place for it.
Carelessly, Sam throws the discarded news item into the already crammed waste paper bin. If only he possessed the power of being able to read between the lines of that scrap of paper, he would have discovered a story to thrill his heart. A weird story set in the realms of abnormal psychology. It opens in the laboratory of a brilliant Russian professor of abnormal psychology, Dr. Boris Cetus of Harvard University. It is a happy day for the austere professor, for he has just become the father of a baby son.
Congratulations, Dr. Cetus.
Thank you, Henry.
How are Mrs. Cetus and the baby?
Fine, just fine.
Now, tell me, Doctor, what you going to call the little fellow?
William James. A good democratic American name.
I suppose you'll want your son to follow in your footsteps. He has a great reputation to live up to.
And he'll be equal to it. You know, Henry, you hear a lot of idle talk about genius being born, not made. But it's not true. Just as a plant is nurtured, so is the mind. I'm going to educate my child, deliberately making what we loosely term a genius.
What? Dr. Cetus.
My theory frightens you, Henry?
Sir, surely we can't tamper with man's destiny. Man does not matter like a plant. His mind, soul. We're treading on dangerous ground.
Superstitious metaphysical nonsense, that's all it is. You'll see, Henry. William James Cetus will have the greatest brain man has ever known.
So William James Cetus becomes a human guinea pig to test his father's theories. 6 months later, a group of professors call at the home of Dr. Boris Cetus.
Impossible. Utterly fantastic.
I can't believe it, Boris.
A 6-month-old baby able to understand the alphabet? Nevertheless, watch. Notice these alphabet blocks with the large letters suspended over the baby's crib. Now, I call out one of the letters of the alphabet, and young William will touch the corresponding block. Watch. D. There, gentlemen.
That's absolutely amazing.
And to prove it was no mere chance, we'll try again. This time, H. He touched the correct block again.
Astonishing. It completely revises all existing thought on child development.
So William becomes living proof of his father's theories. Bond Pater Boris explains it as a kind of mental forced feeding.
With the systematic training of my son's mind, I predict he will be qualified for Harvard University at the age of 9. Fantastic as it seems, William James Cetus is ready for Harvard at the age of 9. The authorities concede his qualifications, but make him wait until he is 11 before admitting him. William's education goes relentlessly on, outwardly a smashing success, but inwardly, a psychological storm is brewing. At school.
Look at James Cetus over there.
Poor kid, I can't help feeling sorry for him.
Why don't they send him back to kindergarten?
Are you kidding? He graduated top of his year. The kid's a genius.
Yeah, maybe he is. Sure, he knows about things that are in books. But what you know about living? About playing baseball or having a good time?
Hey, you better look out. He'll be making you his nursemaid.
Wouldn't be such a bad idea at that. Nobody ever bothers about the kid. He's lonely. Let's go over and talk to him.
Ah, you can. I'm up to the Alpha Beta Pi fraternity meeting. See you later.
Oh, well, maybe I'm the world's biggest sap, but here goes. Say, kid. Oh, how'd you like that? He just walked off without a word.
William's college days resemble a nightmare. He learns to hate staring eyes, to shun all society. Mentally, he conjures up distorted visions of his life.
They hate me. Nobody likes me. I don't understand what they talk about. I don't know anything about games. They say I'm a freak. They hate me. They hate me.
Yet the boy does have his day of glory. One day he appears on the lecture rostrum at Harvard to discourse on...
The fourth dimension is the subject of today's lecture by William Cetus.
Brushing aside a lock of blonde hair that falls across his eyes, the shy boy begins his treatise in a shrill voice that becomes shriller as he warms to his subject. Occasionally, the attentive listener can detect an ominous giggle. But at the end of the lecture...
Remarkable. The most clear-sighted exposition ever given on the subject. Genius. Sheer genius.
But the cost of genius is soon apparent. The great brain of William Cetus breaks down. He is removed from Harvard to his father's sanitarium at Portsmouth in New Hampshire. Throughout America, critics assail the man who has endeavored to create in his son a genius.
A monster! Dr. Boris Cetus has deliberately destroyed his son's mind. Congress should pass a bill that will prevent any further exploitation of children by their parents.
The Associated Press of America condemns the practices of Dr. Boris Cetus, who has come close to destroying his son's sanity.
The fools. Don't they realize I'm trying to prove that man can be unshackled from the tyranny of heredity, so that with a free mind he can go forward to greater triumphs, greater discoveries, and I will prove it. In the sanitarium, the anguished man renews his battle to continue his boy on the road to genius. William returns to his studies and graduates with honors before he is 16. But then comes the day, an historic day, that shatters the wild ambitions of Dr. Boris Cetus. And now that you have completed your course, William, I have mapped out the next 3 years of your life.
One moment, Father.
Yes, William?
Father, I don't know how to tell you this. I'm leaving home.
Leaving home? I don't understand.
All these years, Father, you've forced learning upon me. But I don't want it. I want to be an ordinary man. To live and love like an ordinary man. I don't want any part of this fantastic life you've mapped out for me.
William, you're upset. You'll see things differently in the morning. Surely you'll not destroy my life's work.
That's exactly what I intend doing.
No, I won't permit it.
Well, it's too late. I'm leaving you, Father. I must before I completely lose everything worth living for.
And so William Cetus turns his back on his father's ambition, determined to destroy the genius he had created within him. He avoids any job that calls for intellectual ability. Gradually, he slips down the scale.
Yeah, we can take on the clerk. $23 a week. I'm your maid.
Your stove looks like this is used to shifting heavy loads.
Well, just give me a break and I'll make good.
This construction gang goes to Missouri. You sign on for a minimum of 23 weeks.
Well, where do I sign? Hey, George, like your chair at the doctor? No, thanks. How long you been on the track?
Oh, a couple of weeks.
And there ain't nothing like it. Life in the track. No worries, no responsibilities. Who wouldn't be your tramp? Yeah. Who wouldn't? Not very tally, are you? So, we can't always be bright. Education, that's what does it. Now take me. I went to 6th grade. That's what made me different to the rest of the tramps. Education.
And so into society's no-man's land ambles William Cetus, genius. Shabby, down at the heels, and badly in need of money, he drifts his way through life until... Well, Doctor, he's gone.
Why the blazes he picked this boarding house to die in, I don't know. Think of all the trouble it's going to cause me.
Who was he, anyway?
Just some tramp off the tracks. A guy called Cetus.
Yes, if our friend Henry could have read between the lines of the story sent in by his cub reporter. But that, my friends, is always the way. There is an infinity of drama hidden in a musty attic. A paper long since forgotten. A clock that relentlessly ticks away a lifespan. Yes, into all these fragments is woven the story of man. A story both strange and beautiful. And told to you by the whispering voice of the night wind. Unbelievable, but true.